behalf of E18 and Network 18, gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this conclave. We have in attendance some of the best names of the HR fraternity today. It is this so-called standing tall amidst all situations, nature that HR has, that has drawn the board's attention to this very critical function. And I will welcome you all again, and I thank all the speakers who have spared time today for us. Thank you so much.
What should HR do? What should HR do? And that, to me, is a seminal question. My personal opinion, being an outsider who is now an insider, the HR education process does not prepare people to face the challenges of modern corporations. It does not prepare people to be business leaders. So HR has to be close, connected with business. HR has to partner with business to lead, because people are a very critical component of business. People don't come after strategy. People are part of strategy. People make the strategy. And when you make strategy for a business enterprise, the people component has got to be there, right there. HR has to understand the customer and use its knowledge. HR has to understand the global landscape, the external customer and internal customer. And to me, changing the HR profession, redoing how you deal with people is going to be the critical thing that the HR profession has to take upon yourself to be good for the next 10 years. Thank you very much.
My pleasure to be here this morning to talk about a topic, HR, people, etc., which is extremely important for all of us going forward. It's been very important for the last decade. It will be even more important in the next decade. India has great momentum. In the next 10 years, we expect it to grow at 9% per annum. Real incomes will double. We as a country will get younger. In 2020, the average age in India will be 29, which is less than what it is today as the average age. We'll be a free democracy. We'll have a free media. That combination, no other country in the world has. So there is huge momentum. And I'm sure that you'll generate that momentum so that all of us will see a very different HR practice in the next 10 years. Thank you very much.
It's indeed quite a privilege to be here, voicing a thank you to start with. Rajneesh and I, a couple of years back, sat back and said, look, if we have to take back to the human resource professionals a conclave that demonstrates a value addition which is different at one level and value adding at another level. So I take this opportunity together with the TV18 team, all of whom have actually made the show happen, as it were, today. So thank you very much, Mr. Mohandas Pai, Mr. Shiv Kumar, Mr. Rajneesh Singh, and on behalf of all of you, thank you.
Human assets are becoming scarce. We are discussing somewhere in the platform. Earlier, it used to be the scarcity of the staff people only, talented people. But today, even the contractual manpower is becoming even the worker level is becoming a scarcity in the country. I think it is really how to involve the people, how to challenge them, how to engage them, how to create a joy at the workplace.
In the industry that I come from, which is on the technology services side, we have a situation where 60% at least of your revenues are people-related costs. And of all the expenses that you have, 75% of all expenses are people-related expenses. So now, while you could probably decide to change a auto component, and one of the existing auto component will not cry, in the people dimension, if you decide to alter anything, the sounds that you hear are far more louder. So the context of cost and dealing with that element as part of this business is that much more a complex situation. Why is it that when we talk about having an HR group, we seem to be most anxious to recruit MBAs with an HR specialization? And more often than not, I find that most HR groups seem to have a predominance of HR people in it. I don't know how many of us have finance experts in the HR function. In other words, not necessarily people who are qualified, but people who have a natural instinct to play those roles and seem to excel in that area.
I think we have been looking at this environment, big volatile changes day in and day out, and therefore there is a fair amount of pressure impact on HR to change, to respond. But at the same time, I think there is another perspective for all of us in the profession to take it as an opportunity. Perhaps high time this leadership conclave, and my compliments to Network TV 18, especially Rajneesh, KPMG, Monster. Good thinking, good timing really. But this leadership to me really is about change. It is not about leadership really. And that changes this typically trapped identity which I still find most of those involved in the profession looking at human resources as the support function, support function, support function. I think to a great extent we'll need to understand this big change that it's a business function. Neither it's a line function nor it's a support function. And if it's a business function, it should deliver business value, whether to shareholders, stakeholders, or to people. Wherever we define, end of the day, there has to be an accountability for any business function.
First of all, we need to believe that we are worth. The challenges that we are faced in this country, from the economic development perspective, the organizations who have moved from a good to great kind of a concept, I think we all have made some contribution. We have instilled some confidence level today, and that's the reason today we are sitting here and discussing about our next steps. So first and foremost, we need to believe that we are worth, and we have done some good work in the last 20 years, and we need to clap for ourselves. Going forward, yes, there is a challenge which I see when it comes to functional strategy, optimization, and transformation, because in each of our sectors, respective areas, there is a bigger challenge. There is a kind of work that we do in HR, which is, I think, even still important, because that's how we connect to people, which is the regular HR piece of work. We are a kind of people who have been adaptable, we have been delivering, and will continue to deliver.
All of you in an HR conference would agree with me that people are the most important part of an organization. But equally, technology has been a differentiator for a lot of organizations. A lot of organizations have used technology to stand themselves apart from the rest of the world. But it's not always been a bed of roses. KPMG in its recent study found out, of top US corporates found out that over 50% of the companies that we studied had to write off a large part of some of their IT investments because they weren't able to realize the benefits out of it. Secondly, what we are also seeing is that there's a subaltern movement in terms of technology adoption. You know, employees at the base of the organization are using social media and Orkut and Facebook and Twitter to reach out to the external network and to communicate in ways that gives the corporate communication and investor relationship people a lot of headache. So technology is being seen and used in a lot of ways by people and organizations.
I am the odd man out. I need your help. Technology cannot help me. Perhaps Ganesh and Rajneesh can help me, because you see I am flanked and surrounded, sandwiched by the CEOs, and I am only a HR guy. I don't know about business. And secondly, CEOs in the technological companies. But let me take advantage of it. When you have this handicap, I think let us use the handicap to your advantage. I come from a very traditional background. I have served 40 years. I know only HR, nothing else, in whatever form it's called. I have not changed my name. I have not changed my profession, but my company's name has changed 4 times. That is GlaxoSmithKline, where I spent 30 years. But technology can help in an organization, provided, number one, I think, it's important that what is the end user wants it. I think any technology which can be aggressive for the sake of doing it as a best in class, or this helps you because X is doing, would not hold good.
I think technology has been used for the last several years in improving the transactional efficiency. But as we have heard in previous sessions, that the challenges today are different. We are dealing with employees that are tech savvy. Anyone who has a mobile phone is tech savvy today. Information is democratized today. There are many sources of getting information. So there is a lot of aspirations that one is dealing with from an employee base that technology needs to address. Performance is driven primarily by productivity improvements and by motivational improvements. So how can the technology, and especially the new generation technology, address these two aspirations?
Technology is important, no doubt about that, and content is important, because unless you have relevant content, what will you train the guys on? Any e-learning initiative or any technology-enabled learning initiative that ignores the culture of the organization or does not align with the business objectives in a very simple way. In a lot of times you have stuff that you do in a very convoluted way, it aligns with business. But see, end learners, when you put technology or e-learning in front of them, they will say, what's in it for me? And you need to answer that question very simply. What's in it for you? And I think in India we have reached an inflection point where people have experimented with that, have used it for soft skills and stuff like that. They've experimented with domain or product training and process training, and now they are getting very comfortable with that.
How do HR become strategic? And where does HR and business meet on the technology road to make yourself more strategic? I think what Dr. Pai and Shivakumar alluded to was the next 10 years and 20 years is beckoning the new age HR professional to be the CEO of companies. I think Jacob mentioned that there are two faculties in any organization which is sort of staying behind in really taking the corner office. One is technology, the other is HR. I sit in CIO forums hearing the same thing. Why can't CIOs be CEOs? Why is it that only a sales professional moves up to be a CEO or a finance professional moves up to be a CEO more than HR and IT? I think the key differentiator is, I think, looking at workforce data, analyzing workforce data, operational workforce data in real time or near real time in an integrated manner is at the root of changing the view on HR.
I welcome you to the next panel discussion, Journey Up the Curve, Lessons from the Recession. Today, we have a situation where the world continues to be under uncertainty, with economists debating whether there will be a double-dip recession, whether the incentive packages or stimulus which was given needs to be augmented or winded up. But in India, it seems like growth has seen no tomorrow.
I think fundamentally recession, acted like kind of super glue. I think it brought organizations, made it much more flatter in terms of the leadership, the management, and the ground level speak to each other. Having said that, I think it is what, from a civil society like India, where we spoke about caste and creed, I think it became fashionable to speak about waste and greed in the corporate circle. I think that's a big learning. I think the biggest thing that what we did from a business model perspective is, I don't think, if at all anything, it has impacted it positively. Entrepreneurship is on the rise in India. We still see entrepreneurship being very, very bullish. The Indian markets have recovered. For example, real estate or financial services which we run has not been impacted because we cater to the lower and the middle income group, which I do not think saw the kind of recession the world has seen.
See, the last 2 years, India for the first time in the last 10 years, I would say, the organized sector employment dipped by almost 30%. What you don't realize, the impact may not be very severe in many industries, but in the recruitment industry, it was one of the severest hit, the last year. If you were to look at, India has consistently generated about 1 million jobs in the organized sector over the last 5 years on an average. But last year it dipped to around 6.7 lakhs, over 30% dip. The impact of it you need to see in the context of the overall economy where only 10% of the people are in the organized sector. And in spite of that, which basically means that with 10% unemployment, 10% organized sector jobs, you have 80% of the country which is in some kind of unorganized